So before I begin this episode, I do want to give a shout out to a couple people. First of all, I would like to give a shout out to Lunatic. He's the one who provided me with this save. He's a really chill, down-to-earth guy. He plays some sick EU4 and also has his own Twitch channel, which he streams on very regularly, including EU4 and other games as well, which I will be posting a link to in the description down below. I would also like to give a shout out to EU4 Casuals Discord, who is partnering with me as I make this EU4 Beginner Guide as an affiliate with them. They're a great place to hang out, as long as you avoid the politics channel. And they also host very regular EU4 multiplayer sessions. They're a great place to learn if you haven't, if you're still new to the game, and I would suggest giving them a quick visit. Once again, just link in the description down below, right next to my Discord and my Twitch channel as well. Now, let's get into the video. What is up, everybody? It is me, your boy TPT, coming at you, not live and not from Twitch TV. So today we are going to be continuing our beginner guides series for EU4, and we will be doing the more advanced trade mechanics in this video. So I've got a bunch of things I want to cover, so let's just jump right into it. So the first one I've got is privateering. Now, you may have noticed with your ships that go to here. You may have noticed, when you go to your select mission, you've got a couple options here. You've got protect trade, privateering, hunting pirates, and a bunch of others as well. So the first one obviously is protecting trade, which we explained how that works. Basically, it just gives you an increase in trade power in the node, relative to how many light ships that you've sent there. Now, the one that we didn't cover is privateering. Essentially, what privateering is you steal a percentage of the trade from a node, and basically those privateers give you that money straight to you. So if we look here, we're currently privateering a trade node in the English Channel. And if we look on the pie chart here, you'll see that pirates have 9% of the total trade power among countries collecting from trade. Their trade power is 211.942. And then it says, the largest trade power share in the node, England, makes privateers 51.1% efficient here. Now, you'll notice this here as well, which is, with a total of 620 guns in pirate hunting and 1.1 K guns privateering. The penalty to privateering in this node is negative 28.1%. So basically what's happened is I've sent my ships to privateer, and England has sent some ships to reduce the efficiency of privateering by hunting pirates. Now you may ask me, that's cool and all, but why do I want to bother doing this when I could just be, protecting trade in my own nodes instead? Well, there's two main reasons. The first one is, there's three actually, if you want to include one. The other one's just not as big of a deal though. So first one is you get power projection when you collect from nodes that your rivals have a large amount of trade power in. Now, unfortunately, we don't have any rivals in the English Channel, but if we were to say go over to, like Hormuz or Basra, because as you can see, the Mughals are our rival. If we were to go over there and start privateering, we would actually gain some power projection. And as you may or may not know, power projection is really important because at 50 power projection or higher, you get +1 of each monarch point per month, which is actually a very significant number. That is not an insignificant number of monarch points, and so you should really try and aim to keep this number here above 50. Now, the other reason that you can, one of the other reasons you can privateer nodes is you do actually still make money off of this. Now, you may be asking, is it in trade? No, it's not. It's actually under the spoils of war section. And you'll see that from privateering here, we make 7.24 ducats every month. Just off privateering. That is, it's not that much cash, but it isn't nothing either, and it helps you to make sure that you can pay for the upkeep of the ships that you send. Now, the third reason why you can privateer, although this one isn't as big of a deal, is, say for example, England is got their colonies, and the colony, actually we'll use Spain as an example because England probably has got any. Okay, so we've got New Castile over here, and New Castile has a bunch of gold mines. Alright, They got a bunch of gold mines. And what happens there is instead of New Guinea getting that income, you'll get a little... If we just swap over to Spain real quick. This way it's an Iron Man. I can't. Either way, if you look at Spain, they'll have a little indicator on the icon of their colonial nation, and every couple years they'll get a shipment of hard cold cash from their colonial nation in proportion to how many gold mines they have. Now, if we had privateers in, say, Mexico, we would actually be able to steal a percentage of that cold hard cash. And that would go right into our coffers. So if you have someone you don't like who's colonizing and they happen to have, you know, just a couple gold mines, well, you can get yourself a little piece of that pie for your own coffers as well, you know, in true British fashion. Now, the second thing we're going to be talking about here today is mercantilism. So mercantilism is a value ranging from 0 to 100%, and as you can see, it gives 3 main bonuses. So the first thing is you can get it by spending. Its base cost is 100 Diplo, although obviously we have a bit of innovativeness and stuff, quite a significant amount actually. So the cost is reduced, but it costs 100 Diplo for 1 mercantilism, and you also tend to get a lot of, you know, events surrounding it, particularly if you have trade ideas, then a lot of your events will, you know, change the value of your mercantilism. And the higher your mercantilism, the better and the worse. Okay, so I will just note that it doesn't show it here, but if you have a colonial nation, the higher your mercantilism, it will actually increase the liberty desire of your subjects. So that is something to take into consideration. Mercantilism isn't purely positive. It does have a negative downside associated with it, but because we don't have any colonial nations, we don't have a worry here. Now, so, you know, that's basically covered the negatives of it. Now for the positives. So you've got 3 modifiers. You've got provincial trade power, embargo efficiency, and the Burgers loyalty equilibrium. So the Burgers loyalty equilibrium is basically the equilibrium of loyalty that your subjects have. Now, I'm not going to cover subjects too much in here because I do have a video planned in the series which will cover the subject in much more detail, so stay tuned for that one. But needless to say, the higher your equilibrium, it is a good thing to get that, because it means that your states will be more loyal. So we've got embargo efficiency next, which you normally tend to do with your rivals unless you've got a truce. So we actually have an embargo currently placed on Austria instead. And I will be covering those next, so I won't get into too much details just yet, but that is also a nice modifier as well. And the third one is the provincial trade power modifier, which we did cover very briefly in the first video, you know, because that was just covering the simple parts of it. But essentially, it's the trade power modifier of the, you know, the trade power in a particular province. So you can see here, this province is 5 dev, so it has the 1 trade power, but because we've got colonialism and mercantilism, it actually gives it an additional, so basically times it by 1.56, so it gives it 156% trade power, and that is applied to every single province that you own. So it's really good at securing, you know, extra trade power, particularly in high contested nodes. And that's probably the big reason why I would say that mercantilism is a very useful thing to have. Now, again, speaking of embargoes, we will cover the embargoes next. This is also a very good feature. It is another way of increasing your power projection. It can increase your ducats, and it's also a great way of really, you know, peeing off your neighbors and your rivals. So you may be asking, all right, well, how does it work? Well, as you can see here, again, we've got it on our little screen here. And we've got a bunch of embargoes on us. You know, there plenty of people are embargoed on us, but we've also got an embargo on Austria. And look right here, you'll see that Austria is getting a reduced trade power penalty in a whole bunch of nodes. And obviously, we've also got our little 11.5% efficiency up here because of our mercantilism. Now, how this works is if we go over to, say, for example, the Ragusa node, I think, is probably a good example. Just check. Yes. Where's Austria? Is Austria on there? Wait, no, never mind. All right, we'll use the pest node as an example. So we click on the pest node. We have 43%. You know, we do have the majority of the trade power as compared to everyone else. So if we scroll down to Austria, all right, well, look at us, for example, we'll see, you know, we got a bunch of embargoes there, okay? If we look down to Austria, they've actually got negative 5.7 trade power in the province because they're getting negative 17.2% trade power due to our embargo on them. And the more that that you control in the node, the higher that percentage is. You know, as you can see in Constantinople, or say Baltic Sea, you know, we've got 97% of the Baltic Sea, so our embargo efficiency in the Baltic Sea is much higher than it is in, for example, Wien, where we've got, you know, negative 0.5%, basically negligible. But however, they give us, you know, a negative 1.6%. Just ignore the load number. Obviously, we have got a lot of extension right now. We'll talk a little bit more about the save at the end of the video, but actually we'll probably do it at the start and I'll just edit it out. But let's just pretend we didn't hear that. Anyway, so you may be asking, okay, that's cool, so I can, you know, loot a bit of trade power off other people, but why is this relevant to rivals? Well, unfortunately, I'm just gonna do this real quick. Obviously, this isn't actually my save file, so it doesn't matter that I'm doing this. This is just a copy I was given by a friend. Again, we'll cover that in a second. We've got a truce. That's unfortunate. But I'll just explain it quite simply then. If you embargo your rivals, you can gain between 1 to 3 power projection depending on how, you know, how much trade power you share with them and how efficient each of those embargoes is. So you can gain essentially from 3 to 9 trade power, 3 to 9 power projection from embargoing your rivals if you have up to 3, and they're all very close together, you know, lots of trade power. So that is another nice positive of embargoes. However, again, that can be a downside. So as you may have noticed, we embargoed Austria, except Austria isn't our rival. So what does that mean? Well, if we go to our trade efficiency, you'll actually see that for every trade embargo you have that isn't with a rival, you actually lose 5% trade efficiency. So again, it's not a purely positive mechanic. You do have to weigh up the positives and the negatives. But if it is your rival, no need to fear. There is no downside in the trade efficiency for embargoing your rivals. It's just because we've got Austria. And if we unembargo Austria, then the trade efficiency will go right back up. Now, the next topic, we did cover this a little briefly in the first video, but it's regarding moving your trade downstream. And so basically, as you know, we've explained, you know, how the downstream and upstream nodes work, and we've also briefly explained, you know, how to move your city. But you may be asking, but wait, how do we move it? Where do we move it to? All right, and that's pretty simple. There's a few main factors that decides where you move your trade node. So the first one is you pretty much always want to be moving your trade downstream relative to where your previous node was. So I'm playing as I'm playing as the good old fashioned Commonwealth, and as you may or may not know, we started as Poland, and our main trade node was Krakow. However, Krakow is not really that good of a node. As you can see, it's only worth about 14 ducats locally, and we figured, well, you know, how do I make more money off trade? This isn't a very good trade node. What's a better one? Well, you've got a couple options, all right? So first of all right, we could have moved it to the Baltic Sea. You know, we got a lot of trade power there. It's a very nice node. You know, it is downstream from our first node, and you know, we could control it pretty easily. However, what we instead decided to do was move it to Lubeck. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. The first one is you've got to consider the relative value of your provincial trade power within that node, and compare that to the relative trade power of nodes downstream. Because obviously, as we mentioned previously, we've always got the transfer from traders downstream modifier affecting how much trade power you have relative to others who would want to take the trade power out of that node. And as you can see here, even in here, we also have quite a significant amount. We've got 84 from England, which is obviously the majority, as well as a bit from Holland, Liège, and Brabant. However, Lubeck overall has as you can see, even though it's 964 versus only 1,000, if you look at the value of Lubeck, because, oh, look at that. Not only are we getting, the 14 ducats from here, and the 11.7 ducats from here, but we're also getting the 14 ducats from Lubeck as well. So we're getting even more money in our pot. Additionally, the amount of trade power you can get from the land here is significantly more than the amount of trade power you can get from the Baltic Sea. And on top of that, it's one less trade node of people dragging your trade power away from the Baltic Sea into Lubeck. And then they'll be dragging it away from Lubeck into the English Channel. However, this way you can only drag it from Lubeck into the English Channel. So there's only one way that the trade can go, which means that you can control it a lot more easily. And this brings us to the point of end nodes and why they're so powerful. So there's a couple end nodes in the game. You've got Venice, you've got Genoa, you've got the English Channel. And so if we go to our trade nodes, right, we look at the total, we'll see, oh, English Channel, Genoa, and Venice are all super high rated trade nodes. And you're like, oh, well, Ivory Coast is, except all of that money is being pulled out of the Ivory Coast, because all that money is coming from Asia and Africa. So this one is a bit of an exception because it's not actually that good, because there's not a relatively large amount of trade power in this node, and plenty of people can pull it out into the Caribbean, into Sevilla, into Bordeaux, into the English Channel. And so you've got a lot of contesting in that node for all of that juicy Asian and African trade. Now, on the other hand, English Channel, that's an end trade node, meaning you can't pull trade out of this node once it comes in, because if you look, there's no outgoing nodes. This is as downstream as this trade node gets, meaning that if you have complete power over this node, there is nothing that anybody can do to pull it out. They can take a percentage of it, but they can't actually pull it out. And so it's much easier to lock down these trade nodes and really start raking the ducats. Because again, additionally, this trade node isn't just getting it from the local region. If you look here, it's also getting it from the New World and and Africa and Asia. And that's why it's in such a good position, and why it's easily the most valuable trade node in the world. Because look, Sevilla is like second place, and it has got what's that, 50 ducats on it? Not even close. Not even close. It has got another 50 ducats on Sevilla. And again, there's a lot of provincial trade power to be had here, meaning when you do get it, it'll be, if you do get all this land, it is basically, impossible for someone to be able to use light ships or privateers to take it away from you, especially if you just set up a couple of heavy ships. Because, by the way, if you don't know, heavy ships are the best way of countering privateers, because of the fact that anti-privateering is based on the number of guns in that privateering, whereas privateering is based on the speed of the ship and the guns. So the fact that it's got double the speed, and it's also a lot cheaper as well. If you look, it is about a sixth of the price. A 11th of the price. These are great for defending trade, but these are great for stealing it. So that's also something to take into consideration. Okay, so we've got a couple other things to cover. Now, the next important thing is global trade power. And you may be asking, global trade power, local trade power, seems pretty self-explanatory, right? Yeah, it relatively is. I just figured I'd add it in here so people have an idea about the differences. So, Local trade power, basically, is for the individual node that it's located in. You know, so this gives trade power, you know, it gives local trade power 3.2. And that affects this node. Now, what global trade power does is, if we look here at trade ideas, I think we've got it in here, do we? Yes, here it is. 20% global trade power. What that does is it multiplies your local trade power in every single node by 20%. As you can see, plus 57.9%. If we look here, it's even more because of our transfers. See, so global trade power affects every single node that you currently have trade power in. Now we can go over to Astrakhan. No land in this node, right? Nope, no land. We look. Oh, shrewd commerce practice. 20% trade power. Every single province gets the benefits. Sorry, every single node gets the benefits of global trade power, as compared to local trade power, which would only affect the local node. So if we get local trade power in Warsaw, it only affects the Krakow node. The next point is basically maximizing the ability of your lightships. So we did cover it a bit in detail about how lightships work. However, we haven't explained how to optimize the use of lightships. Now, obviously, we're only making about 7 ducats in the English Channel, not optimized. So, however, you know, we could put it in, you know, the Lubeck, Novgorod, or Baltic Sea. Okay, so first we look at Novgorod. Pretty good money, you know, 31 ducats. We could definitely do quite a bit with that. Except, I know, Russia's pretty much got the, you know, the majority in there, so we'd only be competing with the one nation. Baltic Sea, pretty much on lock, 97%. We could put our trade ships there, but realistically, there's no money in this node anyway, so it wouldn't do anything. There's 0.04 ducats in this node. That is not going to add any money. So, Lubeck, okay, it's our home node, it's highly contested, and it's also got a lot of money in there. So what I would suggest doing is we pick these ships, select mission, protect trade, and go to Lubeck. Because again, those are the main factors you're looking at. 1, where is it in relation to your home node? 2, how contested is it? And 3, where is the trade that you're not taking going? You know, and how much of that trade are you taking? So again, this, you know, we're already taking a decent bit. There's only one country in there, and they pretty much have the majority because of the fact that they have all of the land. They have basically all of the land. Baltic Sea, we've basically got all of the land. We have complete domination of it, and there's only 0.04 ducats in the node, so we don't need to move any additional power here because we've already got all of it. However, this one, again, it's our home node, so it's the closest to home. So the more money we make here, that is directly money into our pocket, like completely directly. It's also really highly contested. There's a lot of countries still in here that have got trade power, as you can see. And, you know, we don't have, you know, we got 70%, which is a majority, but it's nowhere near 100%. Lastly, there's also a significant amount of money being pulled out of the trade node. You know, there's almost 10 ducats are being lost from this trade node into the English Channel. And that's not good because that is our money that is just slipping away in between our fingers. So if we protect trade, it also stops this money from being pulled away from our trade node, and basically that's more money in our pocket. As you can see here, you know, look at that. Look at that extra cash we've already gotten just from moving those trade ships there. Sure, we lost the spoils of war, but our trade income has shot up a bunch. Now, the last real thing I want to cover on this is how, you know, the specifics of your centers of trade. Again, we briefly covered this. I just want to give it a little more detail, okay? Because there is a couple things that are to note. So, every time you take a center of trade, so say I take this center of trade off Bremen, all right, it's level 2. When you occupy this province and you take it off Bremen, it does downgrade the level of the center of trade by 1. So even if they were to take it back, it would still have a downgraded trade node. It would still only be level 1. It wouldn't go back to level 2 when Bremen, you know, if like you lost it to Rebels or something, or in a peace deal. So you're already weakening Bremen's trade power just by taking it, and even just ceding it to Rebels, boom, you still weaken their trade power. Now, the same also happens to you. So say I lost Elfsborg, boom. That goes from a level 2 to a level 1 center of trade, and we just lost a bunch of trade power. You know, that's not good, is it? No, it's not. And then lastly is upgrading your centers of trade. Where to do it, why, how, you know, because it's not cheap. So it's honestly follows a relatively similar principle to your light ships. So there's no real point upgrading, you know, Stockholm, or obviously technically we can't. There's no real point upgrading it because we've already got all the trade power in there. So if we got the extra 5 trade power, it's not even going to be worth an extra 0.01 ducats. However, because this is such a highly contested node, well, I yoink that, boom. That is instantly significantly more money in my pocket. Now, does that mean you should upgrade every trade node to, you know, level 3? No, you don't need to. You know, it's pretty nice because, as I can see, you know, we've got a few trade nodes here. You've got to consider the fact that, you know, they do also give bonuses to provinces outside of that one. Like the yearly naval tradition is very nice. It can really help you maintain your naval tradition. Not that I have a lot, but, you know, it is something to consider. And so, again, if you add the trade values, you know, into this province, it is directly more money into your pockets than upgrading something as, say, the Baltic Sea, because it's more heavily contested. Again, there's money being pulled out of the node that you want to stay in, and it's also, there is a lot of money around the node as well, and it's your home node. So, lots of reasons there. So, like I said, you always want to consider those facts, basically both when you're moving your light ships and when you're making your centers of trade upgraded. So anyway, guys, that's it for today. I really hope you have enjoyed. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you did enjoy. If you have any other questions, I stream pretty much 8 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time every single day over at twitch.tv/twinsplaytake it. I would highly recommend you checking it out. It would mean a lot to me. You know, because I'm on that Twitch grind, I'm on that YouTube grind, we on that everything grind, and so it's a very long, grueling process. I love meeting new people, I love talking to new people. We also host multiplayers for EU4 regularly, so if you have any questions, feel free to join the Discord, ask me in Twitch, ask me in the comments section. Even if I'm not streaming EU4, I would still happily answer any questions you may have. So I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you all next video. Peace.